Welcome to Module 24 of the Six Sigma Institute's Lean Six Sigma Certification Curriculum, which follows both the Council for Six Sigma Certification and the International Association for Six Sigma Certification Bodies of Knowledge. A full copy of the Council for Six Sigma Certification's Book of Knowledge can be downloaded from the course description section for free. In this module, we will be discussing statistics and how to apply them to business applications through Six Sigma. This module will take approximately 30 minutes to complete. At the end of the module, there will be a 5-question quiz on the topics discussed, which you can complete on your own at any time. After completing this module, you will be eligible to take the Green Belt Certification exam. If you get a score of 70% or greater, then you will be issued both the Six Sigma Green Belt as well as the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certifications. The more you learn about statistical analysis, the easier it is to get caught up in the challenge of the analysis and forget that the business is relying on you for answers. In this section, we will be discussing the many challenges in presenting statistical analysis. We will cover some obstacles you might run into when communicating your statistical findings to business employees and leaders. We will also talk about the importance of including statistics in business presentations and some tips for integrating statistics within those presentations. Here's the first and perhaps the biggest challenge faced by Six Sigma experts when delivering information from statistical analysis. Most people simply do not care, truly, unless your sponsor is a Six Sigma expert too, or your leadership committee is well versed in Six Sigma methods. The people you are presenting to do not care about which hypothesis test you used or what your chi-square statistic or p-value was. That isn't to say that business leaders and others don't care about the conclusions or results of your analysis, and they certainly care about the results of the project as a whole. But you have to find a way to present your information in a way that ties in with what they care about and doesn't rely solely on statistical concepts and language to do so. A second challenge is that general business staff and leaders are unlikely to have the same understanding of statistical analysis as a Six Sigma expert does. The Six Sigma presenter is then tasked with presenting data when the backup for that data might not be understood. As a Six Sigma expert, you have to be able to explain why the team chose to move in a certain direction or how you know a process has improved, and not everyone is simply going to take your word that the p-value was appropriate for the decision you made. A third challenge when presenting your analysis is that you can easily become distracted or derailed by the statistics without getting your business point across. This can happen for one of two reasons. First, if your sponsor or another member of your audience is knowledgeable about Six Sigma and statistical analysis, he or she might be asking statistical questions instead of business questions. Some statistical questions might be very well valid. How did you choose the sample size? That might be something relevant to cover in a presentation so that the audience understands what assumptions were made by the team and what risks were considered acceptable. On the other hand, if you have already done the analysis and made decisions based on sample size and hypothesis testing, then it is a moot point on whether the power was set correctly. One way to keep this type of derailment from occurring is to keep a sponsor with Six Sigma knowledge in the loop throughout the project. That way, he or she can provide input on such things in real time if so desired. A final challenge in presenting statistical data is in the tendency to include too much information or too many examples. You have a box plot, a bar graph, a pie chart, a hypothesis test, and several calculations based on probability distributions. They all look good to you. They all say a little something different about the data. They should all go into the presentation, right? Wrong. Too many ways of illustrating the data overwhelms the audience. It is also likely that the majority of people within the business won't see the nuances in the data that a trained Six Sigma expert does. which means from their perspective, you're simply showing them the same data over and over and over again. It is not an effective use of presentation space or meeting time. Even with all of the challenges that we have discussed, you shouldn't leave statistics out of your presentation altogether. Whether you are presenting findings at a measure or analyze tollgate review, or you are presenting for final approval on improvements, statistics are what provides your conclusions or results credibility. It is important to walk the line between educating the audience on necessary information regarding the Six Sigma process and providing an in-depth discussion of statistical analysis. For example, you probably should ensure that your audience understands what standard deviation is and why it is important. But you probably don't need to explain all the types of hypothesis tests, or even in some cases, that you used a hypothesis test at all. But incorporating your data into a presentation is generally necessary. It is important to include statistics for credibility, but many people in your business audience are likely not to follow the intricacies of actual analysis. In this section, we will be discussing various tips for creating business-friendly presentations. If it is important to include statistics for credibility, but many people in your business audience are likely not to follow the intricacies of the actual analysis, then what do you do? This is actually where some of the biggest benefits of Six Sigma's statistical process control come in. If you are working in a true Six Sigma environment, then you are never working only with the numbers. Remember, Six Sigma is more concerned with business and its goals and success than it is with the data and the analysis. In fact, the analysis and data are only relevant in so much that it can be used as a tool to make or measure improvements to business processes. When presenting a Six Sigma project or statistical analysis, tailor the information to reflect your audience's level of concern and knowledge. When presenting to a leadership team, the audience is both invested in the information and capable of understanding many of the statistical concepts behind the decisions made by the Six Sigma team during the project. That doesn't mean you should automatically include all of your data in the presentation. Your audience is also busy. But it does mean that you should anticipate at least a few questions about methodology or statistical analysis, and you can incorporate a few technical terms or results into your presentations without worrying about having to explain them. In other situations, you might be called upon to present Six Sigma information or statistical findings to audiences that are less invested or who don't have any background with statistics. When this happens, it can be helpful to rely on graphical representations of your analysis, particularly if the information you are trying to share is very apparent on certain type of graph. Use PowerPoint or another presentation program to combine your information in a way that tells a story that the audience can understand and care about. Keep your audience and the purpose of your presentation in mind. Attempt to tell an overall story across your entire presentation while presenting miniature narratives on each slide. A slide should tell a story with the placement of information, the inclusion of a graphic, and the question and answer format. Ask a concise question in the title slide. Include an image that answers the question. Add some statistical information to explain the answer. Then answer the question with a text-based conclusion. Not all questions require all elements above. Sometimes the only thing you need to include in the slide is a graph or chart. Some Six Sigma tools, such as the Pareto chart, are easy to explain to audience members who don't have a pre-existing understanding of data analysis or Six Sigma. Given a minute or two of presentation time, you could sufficiently explain how a chart answers the slide's question. No matter how you are presenting your data, make sure that each slide and each element on the slide is clear and concise. This means writing in active language as much as possible, avoiding long text explanations, and ensuring everything is spelled correctly. When including statistics in a presentation, it can be easy to make an incorrect word choice, changing the meaning of your entire statement. You should also be concerned with how elements on your slide might come together. Do not put so much information on a single slide that words or images become unintelligible to the audience. In some cases, you might need to ask a question and answer it over a series of slides. Be cognizant of the fact that a projected slide image is never as clear as the image on your computer. Don't minimize fonts just to fit all of the information in. Remember, your audience could be sitting feet away or even yards away. You also don't need to include every bit of information on a slide. The slide should act as the visual reference point for the audience while you add information verbally. Refrain from misusing the tools, knowledge, and resources you have for creating a presentation or communicating ideas. Most audience members do not want to see a 100 slide presentation. Just because you can include it doesn't mean that you should. Likewise, try to avoid animating every aspect of your presentation. Yes, there is a time for fade in or fly in, but the time is not every single bullet point or image. Don't misuse your statistical analysis software. It takes mere seconds to perform certain tests or create graphs in Minitab. Because of that, Six Sigma analysis and teams tend to accumulate a lot of versions of data. Use them as needed, but don't use them because they are there. Don't misuse your data analysis skills. Don't force an analysis to fit a desired outcome or conclusion. No one is infallible and mistakes can happen. But as a Six Sigma expert, you can never allow biases to force statistical conclusions that are not supported by the data. Given the decision making processes and requirements in a corporate business world, presentations are a requirement of the DMAC process. Six Sigma teams and experts are going to have to present their findings at some point. So, presentation skills are something you do need to work on. It is important that you never let the need for a good presentation drive any part of the process. Six Sigma teams should never make decisions about data gathering, graphical analysis, process mapping, brainstorming, or any other function simply because they think it will look good for the presentation. Instead, the presentation of information to the business must come after the work is done. This truth is relevant anytime you are presenting information, not just when you are standing in front of a conference room with a PowerPoint behind you. So we make decisions based on the business needs. What is good, what is best for the business interest, and not what will look best on the conference room screen.